Lesson 2-3A, Proportions. A proportion is just an equation stating that two ratios or fractions are equivalent. So an opposite way of saying that is that if two ratios are equivalent, if they're equal, then they are proportional. Example 1, determine whether the ratios are proportional. So we have 2/7 and 6/21. When we're trying to see if these are proportional, then we can just look to see if the fractions can be equivalent. Notice that 2/7 is simplified. So 2/7 is simplified. So now let's take 6/21 and see if we can simplify or reduce it. And 6 and 21 will both divide by 3. And we get 2/7 when it's simplified. So since they both are equivalent to 2/7, then they are proportional because they're equivalent ratios. B part, we have 8/24 and 6/20. These can both be reduced. So we look at them to see what they'll both divide by. 8 and 24 will both divide by 8. So it reduces to 1/3. And then 6/20, 6 and 20 will both divide by 2. So it reduces to 3/10. 1/3 and 3/10 are not equivalent. So we would say no, B part is not proportional. And I should have said that yes, A part is proportional because it had equivalent fractions, but B part is not because the fractions are not equivalent. Example 2, solve each proportion. We're going to start with this problem A. We have 9/15 is equal to m/5. And we can solve a proportion by multiplying the cross products. Or we take the product of the numerator in one ratio and multiply it by the denominator in the other ratio. So we can say m times 15, which is 15m, that's equal to 9 times 5, which is 45. Now we just have this little tiny one-step equation, takes one step to solve. We have 15 times m, so we're going to undo multiplying by dividing both sides by 15. And m equal 3. Alternatively, you could plug 3 back in and see if both fractions reduce to the same, and they'll both be 3/5. So this proportion has been solved. B part, we have 4/10 equals 6/W. Going to multiply and get cross products. I think I'll start here and say 6 times 10 is 60. And then 4 times W is 4W. We want to get W by itself, so we'll divide both sides by 4. And we get that 15 is equal to W, and we have solved this proportion. We found the value of W. 4/10 and 6/15 would both reduce to 2/5, so they're equivalent fractions. Example 3, if 3 binders of the same size take up 4 inches of space on a shelf, how much space will be needed for 26 of these binders? This is a problem that you can solve using a proportion. You could go back and solve this using unit rates, and different other things could work as well. But a proportion usually will make a problem like this work the fastest. So we're looking at the number of binders and the space that they take up. So I'm going to compare those two in a ratio. I'm going to compare binders to the amount of space, which would be measured in inches. And so I'm going to set up a proportion. I know that 3 binders take up 4 inches of space. And I'm looking for how much space, that's our question mark, will be needed for 26 binders. So 26 binders take up, we don't know how much space, and if we have a questionable amount in a problem, that's called a variable. So we could write this as x, our variable. That's what we don't know. So now I'm just going to solve this proportion. I'm going to cross multiply. 3 times x is 3x. 4 times 26 is 104. And then last, we'll divide both sides by 3 to get x by itself. And x is 34 2/3. And we would say that is in inches. So we have solved this problem. You could have said that was 34.6 repeating inches as well.